There are moments in a woman's life when silence feels heavier than any word ever spoken. It's that silence that creeps in after a conversation fades, after a message is left unanswered, after waiting, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, for a gesture that never arrives. You feel it, don't you? That quiet ache in the chest, that whisper in your mind asking, did I imagine it all? Was there something there? Or was I just hoping too much? Louise Hay once said, everything we manifest begins with a thought, a desire, an intention. And the same is true when it comes to love. Long before a man confesses how he feels, long before he finds the courage to say, I like you, something else happens, something subtle, something that only a woman deeply connected to herself can truly notice. It happens in the way he looks for you in the smallest moments. But mostly, it happens in the questions he asks. Because men, especially the emotionally guarded ones, rarely speak their hearts in plain words. But their curiosity, their questions, those are windows into what they're too afraid to say out loud. Maybe you've been there, sitting across from someone, listening to his words, but not realizing that what he's really doing is feeling you, measuring the safety of opening his heart, testing if it's okay to care. Because asking is a risk, as Brené Brown teaches us. To ask is often an act of courage disguised as curiosity. But here's where it gets painful for many women. When the heart carries wounds of rejection, of not being chosen, of being ignored for far too long, it becomes harder to see what's right in front of you. The mind whispers, maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe he's just being polite. Maybe it's nothing. And so, the signs pass unnoticed. Not because they weren't there, but because the wound told you not to believe in them, and that's where so many of us miss it. We've been conditioned to expect love to arrive with grand gestures, with undeniable declarations. But in truth, love often begins in the most quiet, almost invisible ways, in a simple question, in a subtle attempt to enter your world without breaking down his own walls entirely. And yet, if we could pause, breathe, and listen, not just with the ears, but with the soul, we might realize that some questions are not questions at all. They are confessions in disguise. They are invitations. They are soft doorways into a connection that's waiting to unfold. So, today, I invite you to lean in a little closer, to listen with different ears, to notice the energy behind the words, the pauses between sentences, the tenderness hiding behind what seems casual. Because the truth is, very few women notice this. Very few women realize when a man is, in his own quiet way, saying, I like you, I see you, I'm curious about the world that lives inside of you. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this journey is not just learning to read the signs, but asking yourself, am I truly open to being seen? Am I truly ready to receive the love that I keep hoping for? It's never just about what he says. It's about what you believe you're worthy of hearing. And perhaps, what truly reveals everything is when he leans in, looks at you just a little longer than necessary, and softly asks, what makes you truly happy? You can feel it, can't you? This is not the kind of question someone asks out of politeness. This isn't about filling empty space or avoiding silence. This is a doorway, a gentle way of saying, I want to understand what lights you up. I want to know what makes your eyes shine, what moves your soul, what brings life to your smile. Because when a man is emotionally invested, even if he doesn't fully realize it yet, he starts seeking the essence of who you are. He moves beyond surface-level questions about your job, your hobbies, or your favorite movie, and begins reaching for something deeper, something sacred, something real. You see, this isn't just about curiosity. It's about emotional intimacy. It's his spirit quietly asking, is there space for me in the world that lives inside of you? And yet, so often, this moment passes unnoticed. Or worse, it gets minimized, brushed aside, answered quickly, distractedly, as if it were just small talk. But it isn't small talk. It's soul talk. And the reason this question holds so much weight is because men are not wired to ask it lightly. A man who is not emotionally invested doesn't care about your happiness beyond the surface. He doesn't think about your joy as something that matters to his life. But when he does, when your happiness becomes something he's curious about, it's because your presence has already started weaving itself into his emotional world. There's something sacred about being asked this, because it's an invitation, an invisible hand reaching out, saying, show me who you really are. beyond the masks, beyond the fears, beyond the stories life made you believe about yourself. And yet, how often have you silenced your own truth? How often have you been so disconnected from your own joy that you struggle to even answer this? It's not just him getting to know you. It's life, asking you to remember yourself, to remember what makes you feel alive, what makes your soul breathe, because sometimes what hurts the most is not that someone doesn't see us. It's realizing that we've forgotten how to see ourselves. And when he asks, "What makes you truly happy?" it's the universe whispering through him, reminding you that your happiness was never meant to be invisible, never meant to be forgotten, never meant to be negotiable. And maybe, just maybe, this is where something truly begins. And if you've ever doubted whether you were truly on someone's mind, there's a question that often slips in quietly, almost disguised in simplicity. How was your day? It sounds so ordinary, doesn't it? So harmless, so easy to overlook. And yet, it holds a tenderness that few people recognize. Because this is not just a question about events. It's a question about presence, about wanting to be part of your daily life, even if just through your words. When a man asks this, especially with consistency, what he's really saying is, "I've been thinking about you. I want to know where your thoughts have wandered today. I want to understand the rhythm of your life, the little things, the quiet moments that no one else notices." It's as if he's gently knocking on the door of your world, hoping you'll open, even if just a little, hoping you'll let him in, not just into your weekend plans or your future, but into the sacred space of your ordinary moments, because anyone can show up for the extraordinary, for the trips, the celebrations, the big milestones, but someone who truly feels something for you longs to show up for the ordinary, the coffee breaks, the hard meetings, the walks home, the quiet evenings when nothing special happened, but your soul still felt something. And maybe that's where the confusion happens for so many women. The mind, still tangled in the old narratives of rejection and abandonment, whispers, "It's just politeness. Don't read too much into it." Or worse, "He's just being friendly." But no, when a man cares, "How was your day?" becomes something else entirely. It's his way of saying, "I want to be part of the spaces where no one else is. I want to witness the unseen parts of your life." And isn't that, in the end, what we all long for? Not just to be admired, not just to be desired, but to be seen in the mundane, in the quiet, in the parts of life that most people don't even ask about. But here's the question that always echoes back. Have you made space within yourself to believe that you are worth being seen like this? Because when you doubt your worth, when the echoes of past wounds whisper that you are only valuable when you're extraordinary, you might miss this. You might answer casually, brush it off, not realizing that what he's really offering is a thread, a delicate, invisible thread, pulling him closer to the fabric of your life. And perhaps that's how love begins, not with fireworks, not with grand declarations, but with something as simple and as sacred as someone asking, "How was your day?" And just when you start believing that maybe this connection is safe, another question appears. One that carries a weight most women feel instantly, even if they pretend not to. Are you seeing someone? It lingers in the air longer than it should. On the surface, it sounds like casual curiosity, but deep down, it's anything but casual. This is a question wrapped in layers of silent hope, cautious vulnerability, and unspoken desire. Because when a man asks this, he's not just wondering about your relationship status. What he's really asking is, do I have permission to feel what I'm starting to feel? He's scanning the emotional landscape, trying to figure out if there's space for him in your life, trying to protect himself from the sting of disappointment, while still daring to hope. And yet, so often, this question gets misunderstood, especially by women whose hearts have been broken before. The mind instantly races. Is he being nosy? Is he just playing games? Does it even mean anything? And sometimes, the wound answers before the soul has a chance to. But if you listen closely, if you pay attention not just to the words, but to the energy behind them, you'll feel it. The slight hesitation before he asks, the subtle shift in his tone, the way he holds his breath, waiting, hoping your answer might unlock a door he's quietly dreaming of walking through. Because this isn't just about whether you're single, it's about whether you are emotionally available, whether your heart, your energy, your presence are open to the possibility of something real. And it's beautiful, isn't it, when you think about it that way? that even in his fear of rejection, even in his uncertainty, something inside him chooses to ask, chooses to risk hearing something he might not want to hear, simply because the idea of you matters. But here's the truth. Many women never realize, when the scars of rejection run deep, when you've spent too long believing that you are the one who has to wait, to prove, to chase, you might miss what's right in front of you. You might dismiss this question as meaningless, when in fact, it's him quietly saying, I care. I'm wondering if it's safe to care even more. And maybe, the real question beneath it all is, do you believe you are worthy of being chosen, not because someone needs you, but because someone truly wants you? Because sometimes, the most sacred confessions don't come wrapped in poetry, but in a simple, trembling question. Are you seeing someone? And just when you think the conversation might settle back into something light, something safe, his voice softens, and he asks, what are your dreams? It's such an intimate doorway, and yet, many women miss the magnitude of what this really means. Because this is not about small talk. This is not about surface curiosity. This is about him quietly wondering, is there space for me in the future you're imagining? When a man asks this, he's shifting the focus away from the present moment, away from the safety of the now, and stepping bravely into the unknown terrain of who you are becoming. It's as if he's saying, I don't just want to know the version of you that sits in front of me today. I want to meet the woman you're still becoming. I want to understand the map of your soul, the places you long to go, the life you secretly envision when no one else is watching. And there's something almost sacred about this, isn't there? Because so few people, so few men, truly care about a woman's dreams, her essence, her calling, her silent wishes for her own life. So when this question comes, it's never just words. It's an offering, a soft declaration, a quiet message that says, I am not just here for the surface. I want to know the parts of you that even you sometimes forget to nourish. But oh, how easily this can be missed, when the heart still carries the bruises of being overlooked. The mind, guarded by old fears, whispers, don't get your hopes up. He's just being polite. Don't believe it. And yet, deep down, there's a part of you that feels it, that tiny shift in his energy, the pause between his words, the way his eyes soften when he asks, because he's not just listening to your answer. He's feeling it, absorbing it, imagining, for a quiet moment, what it might be like to walk beside you, not just now, but in the life you are building. And perhaps, the deeper reflection is this. When was the last time you allowed yourself to even remember your own dreams? When was the last time you spoke them out loud? Not because someone asked, but because you knew, deep in your bones, that you were worthy of a life that felt expansive, joyful, and true. Because here's what's true, Louise Hay reminds us. When we feel deserving, we receive with ease. But when the old stories whisper that dreaming is selfish, that wanting more is dangerous, we begin to shrink, to fold ourselves into smaller versions of who we truly are. So when a man who feels something real, dares to ask, what are your dreams? It's not just a question, it's a mirror reflecting not just his curiosity, but your own permission to believe that your dreams matter, that your life matters, that you matter, and maybe, just maybe, this is how emotional intimacy truly begins, not through grand declarations, but through the simple, courageous act of wanting to know the truth of someone's soul. And sometimes, it's not in the questions about your future, or your happiness, or your availability, but in something far quieter, something that doesn't sound romantic at first, but carries a weight that only the emotionally awake can truly feel. It's when he softly offers, can I help you with anything? At first glance, it seems practical, gentle, kind, but it's more than that. It's his heart speaking a language that most men were taught to rely on, the language of action, of protection, of care. Because for many men, love doesn't always come dressed in poetry or adorned with perfect words. It often shows up through the desire to fix, to support, to make life easier, even in the smallest ways. When he asks this, what he's really saying is, I want to be useful to you. I want to show up for you. I want to make a difference in the spaces where you struggle, where you carry too much alone, where the weight of the world feels heavier than anyone else knows. And yet, how many times have you brushed this off? How many times has the wound of self-sufficiency whispered, no, I'm fine. I don't need anything. I can do it myself. Because life taught you that needing was dangerous, that asking was weakness, that receiving came with conditions. But here's what Louise Hay would remind you. When we feel deserving, we receive with ease. And the truth is, receiving isn't just about accepting help. It's about allowing yourself to be witnessed. In your humanity, in your tenderness, in the moments when you're not perfectly strong, not endlessly capable, not holding everything together. Because when a man offers help, especially without you asking, it's his way of creating connection. It's his way of stepping into the space between you, not just as an observer, but as someone willing to carry even a piece of what burdens you. And if you pause, and breathe, and truly feel into it, you might realize that this simple offer is love in its most grounded form. It's not grand, it's not loud, but it's steady, solid, reliable. It's him saying, I may not always have the right words, I may not always know how to express what I feel, but I want to show it. I want to show it in the ways I know how. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment when love begins to feel safe, when you start to realize that you don't have to do everything alone, that allowing someone to show up for you doesn't make you weak, it makes you whole. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to simply open your hands and say, yes, you can help, and I am worthy of being supported. And when he asks, can I help you with anything? It's not just about help. It's about weaving himself into the fabric of your life, quietly, softly, with love. And then, there's that question, the one that often seems casual, harmless, even ordinary on the surface. But when it comes from someone who feels something real, it carries a silent gravity. What are you doing this weekend? It's the kind of question that seems so simple, and yet, it's loaded with unspoken desire. What he's really asking isn't just about your plans. It's not just about schedules or logistics. It's about presence, about proximity, about belonging. Because when a man starts wondering how you'll be spending your free time, it's his quiet way of saying, I want to be part of your world. I want to see if there's space for me, not just in conversation, but in the moments when you're truly yourself, when you're not performing, not proving, not striving, but simply living. It's his way of checking. Do I belong in the soft corners of your life? In the moments you reserve for laughter, for rest, for connection? And yet, how often does this get dismissed, brushed off as casual, ignored as coincidence, especially when the echoes of past heartbreak whisper? Don't assume, don't get your hopes up, don't believe it could mean something. But oh, it does mean something. Because when a man is detached, when he's not invested, your weekends don't cross his mind. Your time, your presence, your company, it doesn't matter beyond convenience. But when he cares, suddenly, your free time becomes significant. Suddenly, your presence becomes something he quietly longs for, even if he doesn't fully know how to admit it yet. And maybe, what's truly tender here is realizing that this question is often the first step toward deeper belonging. It's his way of moving from the edges of your life to the center, of testing whether there's an open door, an invitation, a possibility. But here's where the deeper reflection lives. Are you available? Not just in your calendar, but in your energy, in your heart, in the sacred space of your own worthiness. Because sometimes, it's not about whether someone asks to see you, but whether you believe you are someone worth being seen, worth being chosen, worth being prioritized. And when he asks, what are you doing this weekend? It's never just a question, it's a thread, a delicate thread being woven between his life and yours, a quiet invitation into something more, something real, something that, if you're willing to notice, could be the beginning of a story neither of you expected, but both of you were secretly hoping for. And yet, as tender as these moments are, there's something heartbreaking that happens far too often. A woman, so used to being overlooked, so conditioned by past wounds, might not even notice when someone is choosing her. When someone is, in quiet ways, leaning in, asking, hoping, signaling something real. Because here's the painful truth. When rejection has shaped your story, when abandonment has carved itself into your bones, when the echoes of being ignored still linger in your heart, something dangerous happens. You stop believing that love could ever look your way without you having to beg for it. You stop believing that you are worthy of being wanted, simply for who you are. And when that belief takes root, even the most sincere gestures, even the most vulnerable questions, become invisible. You don't trust them. You dismiss them. You tell yourself, he's just being nice. He doesn't really mean it. And so, What was an open door quietly closes before it ever had the chance to become something more. It's not because the signs weren't there. It's not because he wasn't trying, in his own way, to show you that you matter. It's because the wound inside whispered louder than his intentions. And this is where the real heartbreak lives. Not in the absence of love, but in the inability to recognize it when it stands right in front of you. Because when the mind is trained to expect disappointment, when the nervous system is wired for rejection, even kindness feels suspicious. Even care feels dangerous. Even genuine curiosity starts to look like manipulation. And yet, none of this is your fault. This is what happens when a heart has been broken too many times. When a woman has spent years giving, hoping, waiting, only to be left empty-handed, questioning her worth. But perhaps there's a deeper truth underneath it all. Perhaps it was never about whether you were lovable, never about whether someone could truly want you. It was about whether you had been taught to believe it, whether life gave you the tools to see love when it came dressed, not as fireworks, but as a simple question, a gentle presence, a man quietly leaning in, asking, "Can I be part of your world?" And the saddest part is how many women never hear that question, even when it's spoken right to their hearts. Not because it wasn't said, but because their own story told them it couldn't possibly be real. And maybe, just maybe, the real work, the sacred work, isn't about finding someone who chooses you. It's about healing the part of you that forgot. You were always worth choosing. And there's something even more subtle, something that catches so many women off guard. It's the delicate line between being seen as the woman he desires and accidentally stepping into the role of the safe, supportive friend, the confidant, the one who listens, comforts, gives, but is never truly chosen. And it doesn't happen because you're not beautiful, or worthy, or magnetic. No, it happens because your energy, your vibration, quietly says, "I'll be here for you, even if you don't choose me." It's the wound of overgiving, the ache of wanting to be valued so much that you unconsciously slip into the role of caretaker, advisor, emotional healer, hoping that if you prove how safe you are, how kind, how understanding, he'll finally see you, finally choose you, finally say, "It's you I want." But here's the truth no one tells you. The moment you start leading with emotional caretaking, the moment you become the one holding space for his confusion, his indecision, his fears, something shifts. You move from being the mystery, the woman he wants to pursue, to being the emotional crutch, the safe harbor, but not the passion, not the chosen one. And it's heartbreaking, because deep down, you didn't mean to do this. You didn't want to become the therapist, the fixer, the one who absorbs his pain while waiting, quietly, for him to notice yours. But it happens, especially for women whose worth was tied, for too long, to being useful, to being needed, to being the one who holds everything together. And maybe the real question beneath it all is, when did you start believing that the only way to be loved was by proving your value through service, rather than through simply existing as the radiant, worthy woman you are? Because men, even the good ones, follow the energy you hold. If your energy whispers, "I will wait, I will fix, I will carry," then they will let you. But if your energy says, "I am the woman who is chosen, I am the woman who is valued, I am the woman who stands, not waiting, but knowing her worth," then everything shifts. And here's what's tender. This isn't about pretending to be distant. It's not about playing games. It's about remembering that your presence, your essence, your existence is already enough. Because the woman who forgets this often becomes the friend, the supporter, the one he turns to for comfort, but not for commitment. And the woman who remembers this becomes the one he cannot forget. And perhaps the most sacred journey of all is learning to no longer confuse being needed with being loved. And maybe now, you're wondering what Louise Hay would whisper into your heart. If she were sitting right here beside you, she would probably smile, gently, tenderly, and remind you of a truth you've always known deep down, but perhaps have forgotten. The way you believe you are deserving determines what you allow into your life, because it's never truly been about whether he asks these questions, whether he notices you, Whether he shows up in all the quiet, subtle ways a man shows interest when his heart starts to care. No, the real question, the one that echoes far beyond his words, is this: are you energetically available? To be seen? To be loved? To be chosen? Because love isn't just about being desired. It's not about waiting for someone to validate your worth. It's about becoming the woman whose very presence says, I am enough. I am whole. I am already the love I was searching for. And as Marianne Williamson teaches, your worth is not in being desired. Your worth is in knowing. You are already a miracle. So yes, if he asks these questions, it's because something real is stirring inside him. Something tender, something vulnerable, something sacred. But even more important is the question that lingers within you. Do I believe that I am worthy of receiving the love, the care, the presence that I have given to others for so long? Because this is the moment, the sacred pause where everything can shift, where you stop waiting to be chosen and start remembering that you were never meant to beg for what you were always worthy of receiving. And as this video comes to an end, if your heart feels a little more seen, a little more awake, a little more open, then trust that this is not the end. It's the beginning, a beginning where you choose yourself, where you remember that the real love story always starts within. If this message spoke to something deep inside of you, there's more waiting for you. Right here on this screen, you'll find another video that continues this journey, a deeper dive into the healing, the awakening, the remembering of who you truly are. Because you, my love, were never broken. You were just remembering who you've always been.